mind somewhere else and keep going. That little voice in your head is trying to stop you from getting to where you want to be. Be successful and keep moving forward.
With your host and world-renowned strength and conditioning coach, Daru.
All right, we're back. Episode number 65. I have my guy, Alex, here from Landmine University. We did a 2-day seminar at the gym, and I must say that I am sore, bro.
Hey.
I am sore. I'm not going to lie. We were just doing, actually, I didn't even have any weight on the bar, and I was just doing those coiling techniques and the movements there, man, and I can tell you my back and my shoulders, everything is just blown up. The second day, I had a little bit of business to take care of, so I didn't really get to do the whole one, but I'm going to get to it today. We're going to do a YouTube. We're going to do a YouTube video too, so make sure you guys check it out. But Alex, I want you to go over, who you are, how you got started in this, and then talk about Landmine University and what you're doing now.
Totally, yeah. So my background, I grew up in Iowa, Iowa City. Grew up wrestling. Like, still the best accomplishment of my life was state wrestling championships in Iowa. That was a big deal for me.
For sure.
That's how I got started. I ended up taking that and being able to play football at the University of Iowa. So I got to played at the University of Iowa my true freshman and sophomore year.
Wow.
And then an injury cut my career short. But I always loved the weight room. So right away I started interning with the strength coach there, Coach Doyle.
Nice.
I did an internship with him. And then that kind of led into me being a strength and conditioning coach at a private school in town. So my whole life I was in Iowa City. Yeah. I worked for 10 years with junior high and high school kids. Then what really happened with me is I got into the spinal engine and into some of this, this functional rabbit hole that you see some of these guys go down. And I ended up hooking up with David Weck over at Weck Method. And he brought me down to San Diego to help teach his certifications. So to teach his coaching classes. And that brought me there and kind of introduced me to a whole different kind of people. I call
a little bit different than Iowa football.
A little bit different. I call them the barefoot crew, the barefoot shoes crew. So surrounded by a bunch of guys with man buns and barefoot shoes, and it was awesome. They're way into movement. Yeah. But what I saw was kind of a gap where it's like, man, if you send some of these guys back into that Iowa weight room, they don't know how to speak that language. And while some of these principles and all the coiling techniques are really powerful, and I think they're really important for athletes, and I do think that that's the future, I saw kind of a void there where nobody was lifting any weights. And man, lifting weights saved my life. Like, I need to be in the weight room. I need to be around people that are lifting weights. And that's where the Landmines sort of fit, because there was just more we could do with it. We could apply the spinal engine concepts and the forward intent with this tool, and we could lift weights with this tool. So I just became obsessed with it. Now, when the whole COVID thing happened and we stopped doing in-person education over at Weck Method, there was nothing for me there anymore. I needed to be around people.
Was this was like 2 years ago? Or was it about a year ago then?
And this whole Landmine University thing is technically less than a year old.
Oh, it's brand new. It's a baby.
Brand new.
Nice.
It's something.
I'm glad we were the first, one of the first.
Absolutely. No, and this is a huge opportunity for me because I'm a big fan of what you guys do over here. But so it's young, it's new, but at the same time, it's not new. A lot of this stuff is stuff that I used with my kids. My success with the high school kids, and back at Iowa City, Regina, shout out, we won 6 straight state football championships.
Nice.
We won a bunch of basketball, won 7 straight soccer championships. So, and we were using a lot of this stuff. What I saw was a correlation between, finally we've got some exercises where the best athletes are the best at these movements. And when we can get good at these movements, you can see carryover. Like right away. I see kids getting off their heels. I see kids moving better. So just this year, it was time to systemize it, to make it organized, and to start presenting it. Because right now, my passion, my focus is to try to get this back into the weight rooms, to try to get people. And really what it is, if you guys look at it the way, and you experienced a little bit of it, Phil, but it's like, it's a replacement for the Olympic lifts.
Yeah,
right?
Definitely.
I think it's more functional. I like the way it feels. Everyone's sore when they get through that first day, and their lats, their obliques, but no one's lower back is sore. No, which I love. And if we had spent 3 hours doing the Olympic lifts, everybody's lower back would be sore. And coming up in the weight room, you think that's part of the deal. You think, okay, lifting weights makes your back sore. Well, it doesn't necessarily have to. And right now, it's all about getting it to as many good coaches as possible, and just giving them another alternative, another way to do some explosive weight training, right? And that's where it fits. And I was always a big West Side guy. I mean, we straight up West Side bands and chains for 10 years at Regina. And when I had an opportunity to talk to Louis just like once. We talk about that sort of gap of explosive strength. And he had guys jumping on boxes with dumbbells. And so we got a little bit into that. I was like, man, I'm not so sure that's safer than the Olympic lifts. I love it. It's awesome. There's nothing wrong with it. I get it.
Louis goes crazy, man.
Yeah, and it's legit. And those are some of my favorite videos.
Or the chains,
of these big
chains on the shoulders.
Just jumping on stuff. It's awesome. But I do think that I know why the strength coaches like the Olympic lifts. It's the rhythm, it's the bar speed, it's a different feeling. And I think we've successfully been able to sort of take the parts that I love about it and get rid of the parts that I don't like, which it's super hard to teach. And people end up with sore backs. And a lot of people just can't do it.
It's super like time. It spends a huge amount of time, right? So like as far as time efficiency, I believe that the Landmine does way more in that sense, especially if you're talking about, like, I got a lot of combat sport guys here. Man, we have so many things we have to do.
You don't have time.
No.
You don't have time. And I got down that rabbit hole too, getting obsessed with the Olympic lifts, and I realized that I was bringing my kids in, and 45 minutes later, we had just gotten through like a progression for cleans, and I'm like, what are we doing? Because this looks nothing like what they're doing on the field or on the mat. It doesn't feel the same, and I just became obsessed with it. It's beautiful. I love the Olympic lifts. I like watching it. It's a really beautiful movement, but it's a sport. And these guys that compete in it, man, they've been doing it their whole life.
For sure.
So when you get a guy, especially like a combat athlete, and say he's got a wrist thing,
definitely,
then it's not accessible. He's not. He doesn't have a front rack. Then man, what do we do to fill that void? Because when I was playing football, and this was for me another big light bulb, was the whole program was built around our cleans. We did heavy cleans, and I didn't have a good front rack. I didn't do this stuff in high school. I'm over here, and then I look over the other side of the room, and there's a kid that's been doing it, and his exercise is way different than mine. We're doing two different exercises here, and we're spending all of our time on this, and we're maxing out. Like, this is a number that they're using to measure our explosive strength. The other head scratcher for me was that our best players were like the worst at the Olympic lifts. So we're like, what are we doing? And that's kind of where it came from, and how it got to the point that we're at now.
Okay, I want to take a step back a little bit and talk about, so did you wrestle all your life, or is that something that you kind of did in high school and kind of went to college doing that?
All my life.
Oh, yeah? So when you started wrestling for strength, like, let's say, for instance, getting ready for wrestling, when did you start? Like, young, or? My dad coached a youth program when I was 6. And that's about when I started. And you're from Iowa, right?
Yeah, from Iowa City.
That makes sense, right?
Yeah, my whole life I was in Iowa City.
Nice. So when you first started doing strength training, like, what was it? Just basic bench press,
bicep
squat?
Curls. I think I started same way a lot of people start, sneaking into the rec center or going to the high school, and I mean, I wanted to look like Hulk Hogan. That's what it was.
That's where you got the bug, huh?
And I feel for sometimes I feel for people that didn't start that way. Like those are really great memories for me. Just no guidance, just going in there and trying to pump my arms up and falling in love with it just because it was a healthy outlet for me.
It's so funny, man, because like I used to bring the guys to my house, and I had a bar. We had no bench. And I remember he was with me too. That's like my childhood friend. But we would be there, and we were just basically getting ready for football. So we'd be on the floor pressing, not knowing, right? But we're in there just kind of hitting it, cranking it out, doing some curls with it, whatever. And come to find out, like, now we use that all the time.
Floor press. No doubt.
But I got bit by that iron bug. And then there it goes,
I feel for people who are sort of drug into the weight room, and then a coach will take young kids and try to get them to do functional whatever, and that's sort of but for me, and probably for you too, I went in there because I wanted to.
Yeah.
I developed a real love for that space.
Sure.
And it didn't matter what we were doing. And that's the other thing I realized with my high school kids was that it didn't really matter what we were doing as long as everybody loved it and everybody showed up. And if they love it, they'll show up. And
What was the biggest thing you took away from the strength training in high school and college? Because I know what I took from it, but what would you say you took from it?
I think a big thing for me was the mental side of it and the sort of the confidence that you can get through these numbers.
Sure.
And the numbers are important. And a big thing for me with my kids was it didn't matter what program we were doing. As soon as I put up, like you got that big dry board, as soon as I put up a top 10, as soon as I let them start setting records and competing, everyone gets stronger. It doesn't matter what you do. You do jumping jacks for 45 minutes and then max out your bench, but if you put it on the board, your best kids are they're gonna improve. So, and that was something that I saw in college. I did have a great college strength coach, Coach Doyle, and you know, that made me feel like I was more ready to play regardless. I found myself thinking, man, I'm up to 650 pound squat. I'm gonna bust somebody. I'm not sure how much it correlated.
Confidence, man.
But if nothing,
I think it correlates just from that.
Yep.
Just in that.
I think that people underestimate that.
For sure. That's why, like, with a lot of my guys, man, like, none of them ever went in the weight room before.
Right.
A lot of them.
Right.
Like, a lot of them are super novice. The fighters.
Right.
Man, but now they see themselves getting stronger. There's more weight on the bar. They're getting a little bit bigger, you know, in a sense. And then right there, like, man, I feel powerful. I feel strong. And that right there carries over to the cage.
That's when you're in a fight, that's half the battle. 100%. I mean, no doubt. This is such a powerful tool for that. And that's the other thing when I got into that functional barefoot world was that was something that they're missing. Yeah. You know, they can bring somebody in there and get them doing a bunch of really functional movement for an hour, but if you don't give them that high of setting a record and knowing that they're improving, then sometimes you're beating your head against the wall.
Now, talk a little bit about that. Like, what exactly is like the spinal engine and barefoot training and all that stuff? Because a lot of guys really don't know.
And I'm wearing barefoot shoes right now. I'm not trying to bag. I'm not trying to rag on any of them.
We rock Vivos all day.
Yeah, no doubt. And there's a lot of good that's come from that. I think those two worlds are going to merge eventually, but I do think that, you know, and essentially for me, the spinal engine, Serge Grekovetsky, basically was looking at movement of animals, of humans, of any type of creature that needs to locomote. And honestly, just realizing that your shoulder and your hip, this sort of your spine moves. It moves to initiate movement, it moves to finish movement. And I saw a gap where the entire time we were training, our hips and shoulders were square.
Yeah.
So even you're pressing with one arm, well, gosh, when you punch, you're side bending, you're coiling into that stuff. And I became obsessed with what's going on in here.
Sure.
Just basically a relationship between your ribs and your hips. And how they're developing a long side and a short side of your core. That's efficient movement. That's as powerful as you can be. And that's something that just happens when you run, when you punch. I mean, it's hard to find a snapshot of a fighter and you look at these knockout punches and it's like it's hard to find a time when their shoulders and hips are square.
Yeah. You get some that are like ridiculous, but you know, those are the heavyweights.
Yeah, right,
most part.
right. And when it's time to really like exert power, you see these coiled positions.
Definitely.
So
and that's how you should throw a punch.
Right.
It's reciprocation, it's coiling, it's rotation, like turning it over. Everything has to be involved. And like, so with that, I saw a lot of carryover. Now, I want you to explain a little bit more in detail on like the coiling techniques and how you position that into the landmine. I love the landmine, and I've been working it for a long time. I've seen that, one, it doesn't take a lot of space, which is important, right? Especially in a big group setting.
No doubt.
And then also, it's, again, efficient for the athlete to do.
Right.
Not a lot of time, whereas as far as technique, like you went through, within those 2 days, those guys were like professionals now almost. You know what I mean? Like, I was seeing some of them that couldn't even pick up a bar, and if you were to throw them on an Olympic bar, Olympic lift, it would take them at least 2 to 3 weeks just to even get the clean down.
It'd be a nightmare.
You know? Yeah. So what I want to say was that, when you're talking about not just fighters, but let's say football players, right? How can we utilize the landmine training for football, for soccer, for baseball, all this field sport stuff?
One of my favorite parts about sort of this system, and that's what it came down to, was because, man, I see the stuff you guys are doing. I see people doing incredible things with the landmine. They look a lot like what we're doing. So it's mainly developing a verbiage and a couple of positions and that landmark idea.
The little details that you showed, it made a world of difference. And then, like the hip height.
Bringing the hip to meet the elbow. So what my goal is to kind of give a system, like to say, okay, here's a system. Here's your progression. Here's how you teach it. It is easier to learn. It is more natural, and it's going to come natural. But coaches still need a system. They need a couple of cues so that they don't just over-talk this and overthink it.
For sure.
So one of my favorite parts about doing these classes and doing some workshops is that if a guy comes in that used to play soccer, he'll always say, man, soccer players need to be doing this. And then I'll get a guy that used to play D-line, and he'll say, man, D-linemen need to be doing this. And then I'll get a baseball guy, he's like, man, baseball players need to be doing this. Well, you know what, maybe everybody needs to be doing that. You know what I mean? Like this.
That's cool.
So that's
cool, because I'm thinking about it, from the sports that I play, even now with triathlon, I'm like, man, this is perfect for that too.
Sure.
For the swim, the bike, and the run.
So the swimmers like it too.
I would say, and that's why it's like diverse. Now, you've been a wrestler though, like that's your bread and butter. And you grew up there, Iowa. And you work with Jordan Burroughs, correct?
I did have a chance to work with
How was that? How did he take to it as far as like, the training aspect, and then like buying into, because there's a lot of guys that are like, man, what are we doing?
Always you're going to run into those guys. So when I'm putting together this system, and when I'm trying to say, okay, how are we going to do this? We talk about positions before transitions. We have a couple of positions that we like to hit so that it's undeniable, right? I mean, because that's a big challenge. It's like you're going to get people that come in and they don't necessarily want to learn something new because there's nothing wrong with what they were doing before, right? And it's not, I don't like the elitist attitude. I'm not trying to replace everything people are doing. I'm just trying to give them another tool that they can use. And I think that, some people become obsessed with it and they start using it all the time. I love that. I use it all the time. But it has to be simple enough so that they don't, have to spend forever teaching it, but they need that system. They need specific directions.
For sure.
So that's where it came from, and that's hopefully where it's going to.
So as far as like principles go, let's say for instance, you can probably do this with everything, right? You can do this max effort, you can do explosive strength stuff, you can do speed strength, you can even use accommodated resistance.
Totally, and I do, and that's something that I do a lot in my own programming for a couple of reasons. A, because it works with the strength curve, makes you faster. I love putting bands on the bar anyway.
Nice.
But then with that landmine, the profile of the weight, like as that bar goes up higher, it actually gets lighter. So I really love throwing bands on the bar. It's something that, as you guys get into this and use it a little bit, I'd say, man, throw some bands on the bar. Once they got it down, once they have the movements down, you feel good about the positions, we're always throwing bands on the bar.
You have to show me how to put the bands together. Because of the movements, and it's not just stationary, it's not bilateral.
And generally I'll just throw a couple of dumbbells. Down like halfway down the bar and throw a band over it.
Or we could set the rack, and then we could throw the bands over the rack with the landmine inside the rack.
And when we're just doing the cleans and the pulls, I'll go double band, so the whole band will be over there.
Nice.
And then if we're going overhead, we'll take half of it off.
Oh, I love it. That's perfect, man. That's cool. So what's the plan for the program? Like, what do we want to do with it? I mean, obviously you want to get it out there. We want
to get to Boca. And this is the plan. Is it's finally starting to happen. But for me, like at the end of the day, my real goal would be to find my way back into the college football weight room.
Gotcha.
Because that's my background. I loved lifting weights in college. Like, man, I've never had as good of an experience as that. But you got guys who are being educated on the Olympic list. When you go to get certified, they're like giving you a real quick, you need to know how to do a clean and whatever else. And these are guys that have a lot of time with their athletes. They're training some of the best athletes in the world.
Sure.
So I want to offer a replacement to that. I want to see in the college football weight room, I want to see the first team to take this and replace the Olympic lifts with this.
That'd be dope.
And I think that I think they'll never look back. And I think eventually we can throw this system in and maybe completely abandon the Olympic lifts for athletes.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a big statement.
I know, and it's a big goal, but I really think the more I get into it, the more that I get exposed to great coaches and have these weekends, the more I think that it's realistic.
So that's your true passion. That's obviously, what you're trying to go after when you're doing these seminars is to like show coaches like myself and other people that you've been to, like, yo, this is definitely something of the new age. Like you can still do the Olympic lifts either there, but at the end of the day, this definitely is a better way of doing it.
Sure.
And getting what you need out of it from an adaptation standpoint.
Because when you get a fighter in here and it's time to train for explosive strength, right? Because you got that whole spectrum of how fast are we moving, how heavy are we lifting. If you're not going to do the Olympic lifts, you're going to go from the lightweight or the plyometric training to your heavy powerlifting, speed strength, absolute strength, and you're going to have a gap there when it's time to train for explosive strength. It's a spectrum, and I think that it fits. I think that you can get a lot out of this because it feels similar speed-wise to what you're doing in your sport,
for sure.
But we can load it.
So are you wanting to continue with the seminars, or So like what would be your ideal situation for the next 5 years? I know you want to go in the college setting, but once you get there, you know it's going to be hard for you to do the seminars. Maybe getting some other coaches in line and getting them ready to do the seminars for you.
Yeah, and I haven't decided if what I want to do is coach or if what I want to do is continue coaching coaches. Like I want to certify an entire staff. I want to go in the Iowa weight room and get everybody, to learn the system, to go through the weekend. Because with these weekend seminars, what I've seen, which is really my favorite part, is that then I'll go back and I'll look at some of the coaches that have been through, and they'll have a room full of people doing it. And everyone looks the same. Kind of like we saw there. As soon as everyone looks the same, everyone's getting the same out of it. This is now a system where you can take it and you can apply it to your people, to your kids, to adults. It doesn't matter. So that's the most powerful thing for me, is to have a coach come, learn for a weekend, and then go back, and it's exponential. They can share it with all their people, and they have a real clear way to do it.
How many athletes have you worked with the Landmine with? Like, as far, can you put a number on it, or it's probably a lot?
It's tough. Yeah, it's tough.
So give me like top 5 best athletes that's been able to take this system and like really run with it.
So athletes, because here's the thing, I'm trying to get my hands on coaches.
Okay.
But I've strayed away from training athletes, because we talked about this a little bit. I can take an athlete through courses or train them for a couple months. But at the end of those couple months, I'm going to send him back to his coach. Yeah. And if he doesn't know what or why, then what did we accomplish?
Yeah, it makes sense.
But I've had a chance. I had a chance to work with Jordan Burroughs. I've had a chance to work with Shanji Ribeiro a lot, and he's been a really great catalyst for me.
Nice.
I've been able to work with Jerome Avery. He's a guy who he's a Paralympic sprint. He's a guide runner, which is fascinating. So he Paralympic gold medalist, blind guy that runs a 100-meter dash with his finger tied to Jerome's finger. And they go stride for stride. It's incredible. If you haven't seen it, it's really powerful stuff. Yeah,
we got to pull that up.
Yeah, and Jerome fell in love with it, and he was another great sort of advocate for me.
Nice, man.
So I've had a chance to work with some really good athletes. A lot of these jiu-jitsu guys, Victor Hugo and Gustavo, Leo Santos, like Shanji. These are guys that I get to see a lot in San Diego, and they keep coming back. And Leo comes to all my classes. And I'm not a jiu-jitsu guy. I've learned more about it just recently.
Well, you have an easy transition.
Yeah.
A wrestler, bro.
No doubt. It is different.
It's definitely different. You won't you don't like getting on your back.
No, I know.
Nah, and none of the wrestlers do. But learn that catch wrestling, man. And
it's
very hard to
and it's
keep
something
you guys down.
that I messed with as a kid. I did a little bit of fighting too, and I love watching. Shanji is one of the best coaches, and it's really fun to see him take these landmark concepts, and then he'll go teach his class. We got 10 black belts in there, and he's teaching it the same way. Nice. He'll talk about the landmarks. He'll talk about the hip and elbow meeting.
Like you could tell.
And the martial artists really like it because these are things that they've been beat over the head with from their martial arts coaches, but someone's coming in with a different tool and say, "Oh wow, you're telling me the same things that my jiu-jitsu coach tells me, but I'm doing it lifting weights." So that's just it's been powerful for me, and it's a lot of this kind of looks like martial arts.
Sure.
And a lot of the same positions and the ideas on the long side, short side, the rotational stuff that martial arts coaches have been doing for ages. It's ancient. It's old. The concepts are old. This isn't new stuff, but it hasn't made its way into the weight room because the weight room's just been all bilateral.
Yeah, that's true. When you start off, let's say like a jiu-jitsu guy, do you keep it, obviously you keep it real basic, but how deep do you go? Do you go like real deep, and if they really feel they take to it, or is it like you want to keep them to where it's beneficial enough for the sport, and then from there it's kind of like, all right, we got what we need out of it?
I think, like for me, it's all about, because I got too deep. Like I went there.
We can all get there.
Yeah,
we're
legit. Like I got too deep before. You see people now with like, they've got a football in one hand and they're swinging a club, and like that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
But the real strength in this is that it's simple, and I don't need to go deep.
Yeah.
I'm just going to take them through and say, this is the exercise we're doing. This is the training that we're doing. You do it like this. You tell me if there's carryover, right? I'm not gonna take Shanji in there and be like, okay, this is just like when you're, in your half guard and whatever else. I'm not gonna do that. I'm gonna say, this is what we're doing. This is the training. I'm gonna keep it super simple. I'm gonna help you get really good at this, and because I've been there.
Have you felt like you had to reframe, like as far as like, man, this is gonna. I mean, would you say? I know you just said like basically I don't tell them what positions to be in, but you'd be like, do you feel that? And if they give you that feedback, like this is just how I feel in half guard or something like that.
I like when they give me the feedback and I don't have to ask for it. Like I really just like.
That's good.
Well,
you let the exercise kind of prove itself.
Yeah, and that's what I think is powerful about it. I don't have to go that deep. I like to keep it really simple. I always think back to when I was working at the junior high and the high school, and what I really want is for the coaches to come here to be able to take this and in an hour use this system and get a room full of 12-year-olds doing clean and jerks. Like that's the goal. So making it simple is always my goal. As I've gone through these certifications, I think everyone's gotten better. I think this weekend went so well. It was the best one we've had.
Nice.
We finished lifting real weights. I mean, they were lifting some heavy weights in there, which is really fun. But to make the certification better for me means to make it simpler. So to make it, to invest that time, but cut the fluff. Pick what we want to focus on and make sure that everyone understands these concepts, because the first one, I felt like maybe I talked too much, or I went too deep, or tried to explain why we were doing everything too much. And I want everyone to take it and feel why we're doing it.
Yeah.
But also, more than that, be able to communicate it.
You didn't really talk at all. Like you explained the techniques, but it wasn't like a whole thesis background, like a theory behind anything.
No.
It was more so, all right, feel it.
And I do think that some people expect that. And maybe some people want that.
True.
But I'll tell people all the time, like, I'm not your guy if you want to get spiritual. I'm not your guy if you want to get deep with it. It's just not. I just want to give you a tool that you can use. I want it to be simple.
For sure.
And I got no problem if people want to go deep with it, and they'll be like, and I'll have some of my coaches follow up with me and be like, man, look at this and how it's kind of like that. I'm like, that's awesome.
Yeah.
But what does that mean? How am I good? That doesn't.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, then it's like, all right, you're trying to be innovative for the sake of being innovative.
Right, and you're trying to sound smart, and some of these guys out there are just, they want to make everything as complicated as possible.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's the mark of a good coach. I think a great coach makes everything as simple as possible, especially when it's time to work with your athlete. Like when you have a guy that, man, MMA, they just have so much skill work that they need to do. They have so much that their brain needs to learn, get better at, that to spend a bunch of time getting deep and teaching complicated movements, it's counterintuitive. It's a waste of time.
Well, the buy-in goes downhill quick.
Yep.
You know, you're like, I got the guys that are at the highest level, man. I keep it still super basic.
Yep.
You know, real basic.
Yeah.
But we get results from it.
No doubt, and that's what matters. If they're getting results, and if they're getting results, and you're not taking up that part of their brain that they need for their sport, then you're winning.
Yeah. So take me through like a regular training session, I guess, for yourself. Like, what would you use?
Myself.
Yeah. For let's say, for instance, you did conjugate and everything else. So like, let's say a lower body, or not even just a full body workout where you're trying to build strength and some power.
Yeah. So like for me, I'm still in love with the power lifts. I still am in love with the conjugate method. I'm in love with West Side Barbell. Like, and honestly, going back to my background, when I first really learned how to lift weights, was with Louis' VHS tapes. And then, like, I loved them. Dude. Like, I had all of them, and I would just watch these guys do their speed squats. I'd listen to Louis talk. My split right now that I'm running for myself, and I'm not necessarily trying to dunk a basketball or anything, but I'll do my speed bench on Monday, and on that day I'll go heavy with my landmine clean and jerk, and then I'll do the same assistance work that I would regularly.
Nice.
And it's pretty efficient. On my speed squat day, I'll work on snatches on the landmine. And then on the end of the week, when it's heavy bench day, I've actually had a lot of success doing sort of dynamic method split jerks with the landmine before I bench. I think it opens me up. I think it gets me primed and gets me explosive.
That makes sense,
And I've had a lot of success after doing those dynamic split jerks with the band, jumping under bench and PRing.
Are you setting your percentages? Like, are you going? How would you do that though?
Yeah, I know it's hard, but similar to what Louis would recommend. So like, and I go heavy on that landmine clean and jerk. So I've done like 265 on that, both sides. So using a 50 to 60% with a band, that ends up being like a 45 to 35 on the bar with the band, hitting triples. So
that's that single arm. With the
single arm clean and jerk.
Yeah, this is not just like a regular 2-arm.
No, right. This is when I say clean and jerk, it's our version of the clean and jerk. I've sort of manipulated the reps a little bit. Like on the speed day, on the dynamic day, there was a while where I was just doing one on each side. It turns into about the same amount of time, and then on my heavy squat day, I'll mix it up. Sometimes we'll do those high pulls that we did with the landmine under bands, and we'll use that for like 10 doubles. But it's just another tool. I put it in another category, and I'm trying to balance both. I'm trying to keep strong on the power lifts, and I'm trying to keep strong on the landmine. I'm trying to set PRs in both. Just gives me more things to set records in.
Gotcha. And so you're using most of it. I mean, it's kind of like 50-50. You're using some of it for your main lifts, you're using some of it for supplemental. Yeah,
and I think of it as kind of like, now my program right now is essentially built on 2 main lifts. A power lift and a landmine lift. And I'm usually able to get them both done in 20 minutes if I'm efficient, and then I can still do my assistance work and bodybuilding stuff.
Nice, man. Yeah, I'm gonna have to play around with it, especially with the condensed conjugate. We can implement that.
I think you throw it in there wherever you're doing your plyos or whatever it is that you're doing.
Yeah, I already got it in mind. So be on the lookout. I'm about to do a whiteboard to make sure I shot my guy out. So let's go out there. Let's go train. We'll go on the YouTube video, but tell them where they can find you. Also, if they want to book a seminar, all that there too as well.
For sure. So you can find me at landmineuniversity.com, and that's where all my content is, and I'll sell it to one-time payment for lifetime access. I've got multiple classes, a bunch of tutorials where we break down specific exercises, and then just a huge exercise library where it's like 140 different things you could do that are built on principles. A lot of people want a progression, a lot of people want a regression too. So we try to make it all principles based, but there's a lot of things you can do. Like you can sit there and do 140 different exercises if you want to. Yeah. At the end of the day, I want it to be simple. But find me at landmineuniversity.com, and then Instagram is just Landmine University. Yeah. And I'm always open, always looking for the next spot to do my next seminar. Nice. So yeah, reach out.
Well, thank you for coming on. We got other things to do
really
now.
Appreciate you.
Nah, no problem. All right, guys. See you guys next time.